Greetings, family. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I want to just welcome you all to my channel. I am honored that you would decide to take time to listen to what I have to say. And I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Joy. I am a believer in Christ. I am a mother and I am also a life coach. And I am passionate about just equipping the people of God to walk in their calling and to experience purpose, to experience power and provision in their everyday lives. I do videos that talk on spirituality, that talk on things like parenting, walking in your purpose, and just relationships. And I am truly grateful that you decided to stop by to listen to today's topic. Today's topic I'm going to be talking on is about divorce. In some other videos, I expressed that I am recently divorced. I was married for about 10 years, so about a decade, and I think I got divorced on November 12th, 2020. So I have been divorced now for a little over a year. So I have some experience being in a marriage, and I definitely have some experience with going through a divorce and the whole process and everything regarding that. So if you are interested in today's topic on marriage and on divorce, go ahead and tune in. All right, so I have some notes. So if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at my notes. Someone reached out to me and about this topic about divorce, and I wanted to share my testimony because of what I went through with my divorce and how God really worked that situation out in my life. And first thing we must understand is that marriage is an extremely important topic. You know, sometimes when we think, dang, we talk about marriage all the time, but if you really think about it, marriage was the first institution that God created when it came to the human society. So that tells us how important marriage is. And not only that, but how important the one you marry is. You know, oftentimes we want to get married so desperately, but we really don't take the time to see if this person is truly right for us. Because let me tell you this, and this is what I have learned as of going through a divorce and being married. The person that you marry can either propel you into your destiny, so partner alongside you where you are propelled into your destiny. They are walking with you in agreement towards the purpose that God has called for your life. Or on the flip side of that, you can be united with someone who counteracts your destiny. So imagine it's almost like you taking 2 steps forward and they're causing the relationship to go 2 steps back, or sometimes 3 or 4 steps back. So we tend to sleep on the person that we marry, but the person that we marry is of utmost importance, especially for us being children of God. So it's extremely important. We don't operate and do things the way the world does. And if we want to see ourselves blessed, if we want to see ourselves truly walking in the fulfillment of our purpose, receiving all of the inheritance and blessings that God has for us, we have to be mindful of these huge life decisions that we make when it comes to marriage and then the person that we marry. So this person reached out to me in regards to their divorce, and I wanted to quickly just go over real quick in Genesis what the purpose, kind of the basic purpose that God created a spouse for. So if you go back to Genesis in chapter 1, where he created the world in 7 days, and then on the 6th day is when he decided to make man, and it goes more into detail with that in the 2nd chapter. It says, for this reason, when he finally brought Eve to Adam, he said, wow, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. And then it goes into the basic foundation of marriage. It says, for this cause, a man will leave his mother and father and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. In another video, I spoke about kind of what that one aspect of that one flesh, and that is so that they are naked before one another and there is no shame. There is full freedom, full acceptance, full unity in that union. And so you have unity, the act of two becoming one. You have full freedom and acceptance. The two were naked and felt no shame. And then if you go back to Genesis 1, it says that God blessed them and he said, be fruitful and multiply. So there you have the being fruitful aspect, reproduction, and then you have the rulership aspect, having dominion and rulership over the earth. So when you think about marriage in that context, then you will understand that marriage is extremely important. It's the very fabric of society. And so who you marry is going to have a grave impact on, how you're able to fulfill God's purpose for your life and for the earth in that union. And you can see it. I've been through a divorce. A lot of the women in my family, a lot of my family members have been through divorces. Even within the church, you see so many people going through divorce. And I think it's because we really, as a church, don't truly, I don't think we have the knowledge that we need. A lot of us were not taught how to date properly, how to court, how to be in healthy relationships, how to be a spouse to one another. And then you don't have the support. How many marriage ministries do you see in church? I honestly don't even have really, now that I think about it, we might have a marriage ministry, but it's not a huge factor. It's part of like a small fellowship group. So marriage is not a very prioritized ministry when it comes to the church, and it needs to be. And if you have that in your church, that is honestly truly a blessing. So we have all this divorce, and we need to take a closer look at that scripture. Remember, y'all, back in the day when the old religious people were saying, what God has joined together, let no man separate. Or as in the old folks would say, let no man tear asunder. Okay, so remember that scripture, and that was honestly the scripture that was consistently used to kind of force two unequally yoked people together. And if we really were to think about that for a hot second, let's just think about that for a minute. It says, what God has joined together, let no man tear asunder. Not what man has joined together, not what the society has joined together, not what culture has joined together, but what God has joined together. Remember, our societies is putting marriage together. When we do things like approve of homosexual marriages or approve of all these different types of unions, that means culture is putting marriage together. Culture is giving the green light and the go-to and the go-ahead for couples whom God did never ordain to come together. And that can be the same case in our marriage. It could be the same case in the relationship or the union that we're in. And I want to talk about divorce because I want to break down this person, what they wrote to me about it. And I want to share it with you all because I need you to understand the seriousness of being with someone that is not God's will for your life. And also the seriousness of us and our vows and us being married to someone that is God's will, but we think they're not God's will for our life. So I want to kind of dive into that a little bit. And again, I'll be looking at my notes. So I want us to first and foremost understand that divorce is not something to be taken lightly, and that when you make a marriage vow, God is very serious about the words that come out of our mouth. And in Numbers 30:1-2, it says, this is what the Lord has commanded. If a man vows a vow to the Lord or swears an oath to bind himself by a pledge, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. So the Lord is very serious about what we say out of our mouth. You think about when we usually marry, we come before who? We come before God. We come before witnesses. We come before our family, our friends, our loved ones. We come before the court. We come before the state, and we make this vow: for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, till death do us part. And while we may look at that, or while people may look at that as very flippantly, God does not look at that very flippantly. As a matter of fact, in his word, he says, every idle word that we speak will be taken into account on Judgment Day. So God is very serious about his word. He also says in Deuteronomy 23:23, you shall be careful to do what has passed your lips, for you have voluntarily vowed to the Lord your God what you have promised with your mouth. Think about this, y'all. For the most of us who are not having arranged marriages, who are not being forced into a marriage, we are voluntarily making this decision. Regardless of whether it's right or wrong, you are voluntarily making that decision. And therefore, you have to be held accountable. We have to be held accountable for the voluntary decisions and vows and promises and covenants that we make. So I want to go over some of the stuff that he said in his, because like I said, somebody wrote to me about this, and I want to share a little bit of what he said so that hopefully it may help you, regardless of whether you're seeking clarity, regardless of whether you're in a place of confusion and you want to know what's going on and you want to get some sort of clarity and revelation. So someone wrote to me and he said, I'm going through a divorce right now and it's hard, but I know it's God's will because I shouldn't have never gotten married to the one I'm with right now. Y'all, I just almost yanked my earring out. How many of us have been in a situation where we know that person wasn't right from the door? And I'm not even blaming this person because truth be told, we all can raise our hand and be like, okay, I've dated somebody that I know wasn't right for me. I felt it in my gut, but I decided to go along with it anyway. I don't think anyone can lay here and be silent on that. We all can agree that that's where we've been, but we have to understand, y'all, God has given us intuition and common sense. Intuition is that knowing when you don't have all the physical proof and all the kind of physical knowledge. It's that knowing inside your spirit that something or someone isn't right. And y'all, we are going to suffer when we don't listen to our intuition. So one of the reasons why we wind up ending in a failed marriage, which often leads to a divorce, is because we do not listen to God or to our intuition. That still small voice inside of saying that person is not right for you. I know he got a cute smile, but he not right for you. I know her booty big though, but she not right for you. And a lot of times what we're doing is we're physically, emotionally, and intellectually connecting with people before we can even get to the place to make the decision whether this person is right for us. So it's going to be 10 times harder for us to let that person go when you've already made those other connections. Those other connections should be the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. The cake itself is finding out whether you two are compatible, whether there's compatibility there. So we've all been in this situation. Proverbs 2:6-15 says, for the Lord gives wisdom from his mouth, come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and watching over the way of his saints. Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path. For wisdom will come into your heart and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. So there's an inner working, an inner knowing that God gives us. Just off the bat, there's an inner knowing. But if we are walking in relationship with God, he will kind of confirm that inner knowing. He'll confirm certain things with you. And I'm going to also be sharing part of my testimony of what happened to me. So when I first met my ex-husband, it was in 2010, in May of 2010. And he asked me out on a date, and he wanted to go to Universal Studios. So I live in Florida. He wanted to go to Universal Studios. So I'm like, look, I already wasn't interested from the beginning. I'm like, I'm not interested. He wasn't my type really. And plus I just wasn't interested. I wasn't even focused on him, y'all. Sometimes the enemy send the attack when you're not even focused. I wasn't even focused on him. I wasn't even on my guard. And so I said, look, I'm not interested in going to Universal Studios with you. He was like, I'll pay for everything, this, that, and the third. And instead of me just saying, like, I said I wasn't interested, I was like, well, he said he'll pay for everything. And I haven't been to Universal Studios, either probably never or in a long time. So I was like, man, what harm is it going to do? Okay, it's going to do 10 years harm and divorce. That's what that's going to do. But instead of going against my better judgment and just saying, no, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested, I fell for one of the traps of the enemy. And that's kind of to like woo you, right? So, us women, we like to be wooed, right? We like to be wined and dined and things like that. And let me tell you something. I am not, or nor have I ever been a materialistic person. You can ask anybody. But when a man takes a step up to take you out and to kind of show you that he's a provider, any woman, regardless of whether she a gold digger or not, is going to take notice of that. So that's kind of what I did. And we did that. And fast forward, I want to say at least 2 to 3 weeks later, he hit me with the okie doke, y'all. He hit me with the liner that every man who wants to get a saved woman, who wants to reel in that woman who is waiting on God to provide her knight in shining armor, he said that phrase, y'all. Do y'all know what that phrase is? He said, God said you were my wife. Yup, your girl fell for it. And let me say this. I didn't technically fall for it right away. I kind of was like thinking to myself, first of all, this is super soon. And then I was thinking like, well, God didn't tell me that. But I don't know what made me believe him. I just, over time, when I say over time, y'all, I'm talking about within a matter of weeks. Y'all. I'm not talking about, it just took 6 months. And because we actually got married. From the time that we met to the time that we got married was about 2 months. No way do I encourage that ever again. Okay? But when I saw him being very generous, him showing that he can take care and him doing, and the thing is too, I also had a young son at the time. He was 4 and he wanted to kind of be his father. All these things kind of contributed to me saying, well, maybe God told him, he just didn't tell me. Maybe God left me out the conversation. You know what I'm saying? So, I know better now, right? Okay. So, all I'm saying is that when we don't listen to our intuition, when we don't listen to that small voice inside of us saying that is too soon for some dude to be telling you that God said you was his wife, and why God ain't say nothing to you? You ain't spiritual? You don't have no relationship with the Lord? That's another thing. I had a relationship with the Lord. So that automatically should have been a red flag for me that I'm like, hold up, God didn't tell me this. But y'all, I'm telling y'all, he put the wine and the dine on y'all. I ain't gonna lie, your girl fell for it. And he wasn't buying me bags, hand purses, and all that stuff like that. It was just mostly taking care of me. And when you think about what my love language was, my love language at that time, and still is acts of service, quality time, those things. And those things, those things fed my heart. And so I started to question my own doubts and beliefs and say that maybe God spoke to him and didn't speak to me. And do I want to pass up on somebody that's so generous and so kind and so this and so that? Y'all, within 2 months. I mean, I didn't even know the man within 2 months. And let me fast forward to when he actually wanted to when he started kind of coercing me and started pressuring me to marry him. We were 2 months into our relationship. I actually went to my family reunion, and I invited him to my family reunion, y'all. And I don't do this stuff. I'm so much more smarter female than that, y'all. But he had did some stuff, and we didn't get physical or anything like that because I wasn't playing with that. You wouldn't get no cookies until you married me, which makes me realize that I can see what the rush was. You understand what I'm saying? He had to get to the goal. So I invited him to my family reunion, and he came and loved it, because my family is super dope, y'all. Shout outs to my family. I love my family. Super dope. He came to the family reunion, and that's when he started saying, you know what? Let's just get married at the family reunion. He said, your family's here. I don't really need my family there. Another red flag. So let's just do it. And I'm not going to lie to you. I was feeling super uncomfortable. I'm like, now he convinced me that I was his wife, okay, within those 2 months. But we had in order to make me feel more at peace, I said, let's set the date for a year later. So by him pressuring me at this family reunion, only 2 months into the relationship, I'm like, I thought you said we were going to wait. That's a red flag number 3. I don't know what number I'm on, but that's a red flag, y'all. And so I started feeling uncomfortable, and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess, like you're not feeling sure. And let me tell you, God is a God of surety. God ain't a God of confusion. He's not a God of, I don't really know. If it's a confusion, it's because either you not getting it or that ain't God. So he convinced me, and we wound up, I will say I had a beautiful wedding day. Quaint, small, intimate. It was awesome. But literally, the wedding night, downhill from there. I'm sad to say, downhill from there. And I can't say my whole marriage was terrible, but I'm trying to show you guys and to give you guys some wisdom that listen to what God say, listen to your intuition, listen to your gut. If this man is rushing you, that's a red flag. If this man is saying 2 months into the relationship or 3 weeks or 2 weeks into the relationship, you his wife, y'all, listen to your gut. You're going to feel that feeling in your gut, something's not right. It's our choice whether we choose to ignore it. All right. So he confirms by saying, I tried to make it work by marrying a Jamaican woman, and from the beginning there were red flags. I don't know whether it was because she was a Jamaican woman that was red flags. Shout out to all my Jamaicans. My father is Jamaican. So I don't know whether he was saying because she was a Jamaican woman, it was red flags. I don't think he was saying that, y'all. But he had to let us know it was a Jamaican woman. But I want to point out that he was ignoring the red flags. And if I can think back to what was going on with me, I definitely was ignoring a lot of red flags. Check this out. I looked up a verse about this, y'all. Listen to this. How this verse says in Proverbs 20:25. I thought this was extremely interesting. It says, it is a snare to say rashly, it is holy, and to reflect only after making vows. Y'all, did y'all hear me? Did y'all just hear what the word of God said? Have y'all ever read that verse before? When I read that, I'm like, wow. It says, it is a snare to say rashly, it is holy, and to reflect only after making vows. So what it's basically saying is, don't be quick to rush into something. Be quick to submit to something. Submit yourself to something. Vow a covenant with somebody only later to kind of reflect on, did I do the right thing? It says it is a snare. And let me tell you something. That's exactly what I experienced. A snare. Because when I talked to my ex about it later, he said, I was just trying to do what it takes to get you. It is a snare, y'all. A snare. Y'all be careful on them snares. Let me tell you something. The Bible gives us plenty of examples of how marrying or being in a relationship with the wrong person can be dangerous. I wrote down a few here. Let's talk about them. Abraham and Hagar. Well, guess what that resulted in? Hatred between two wives and animosity and fighting and conflict, and her actually being cast out and cast away from her husband's presence with her child. So she thrown out into the streets basically to become a single mother. And ultimately the two nations, they continuously fight against each other because she becomes the mother of the Ishmaelites. Next, Jacob and Leah. If anybody know about that story, that resulted in Leah not being ever truly loved, her entire marriage, and having to compete with her sister for her husband's affection through getting knocked up over and over. They just playing getting a knocked up game. They having a pregnancy competition. And never once did you ever hear the Bible say, you know, he eventually fell in love. Ladies, getting knocked up ain't gonna make him fall in love with you. Go and look how many babies Leah had for Jacob. She even had the doggone handmaiden getting pregnant by him. And what it will reveal is that even though the man don't love you and never will love you, he still will sleep with you and still knock you up. Think, ladies. Think, ladies. Let that be some wisdom for you right there. Samson and Delilah resulted in Samson being defeated by his enemies, having his eyes gouged out, his strength taken from him, and ultimately he was able to redeem himself, but he basically ended his own life along with those of his enemies. David and Bathsheba, their adultery resulted in not only the death of an innocent man, Uriah, but David's firstborn son dying as a child. Y'all, when we make mistakes, some are very costly, y'all, especially when it comes to who we yoke ourselves with, who we sleep with, who we marry. And hold up, let's continue on with David and Bathsheba. Because he did that, it says it resulted in the rape of eventually down the line, the rape of his daughter by his son. So the brother raped the sister, and the Lord said the sword will never leave your house. So that means you have to deal with constant chaos and conflict always in your home. Y'all, if this don't make you think about who you gonna marry, I don't know what will. I don't really know what will. All right, I got one more for you. And there's many more in the word. I just got one more. Ananias and Sapphira. Them lying about the money that they were going to give for offering. Y'all know about that story. They done sold their fields and got the money. And probably when they saw all that money, their eyes had them little hearts in it. And it resulted in them conspiring to lie. They didn't lie to Peter and them. They lied to the Holy Ghost, and they both dropped dead. This is so serious. Who you marry is so serious that if you marry someone outside God's will, not only will it result in conflict, pain, and suffering, but it may not only for you, but maybe for your children, for your children's children, for those connected to you, but it also may end up in your own death or the death of your children. Y'all seen the news articles too many times, y'all, where the woman dating the man and he done murdered the child. He done punched the child in the face, stomped on the child, killed the child. Y'all, we have to be careful. Let me tell you, I said that the wedding day went great. God at least gave me a nice wedding day. But I said the marriage night, y'all, the wedding night. And from then on, it was constant fighting and conflict, having to deal with pornography, having to deal with cheating, talking to other women, having to deal with lying and secrecy, having to find out he was married before and lied to me. Boldface lied to me and my mama and told us that he was never married before. And he said, the reason why I said that is because I knew you didn't want to marry somebody who was married before. This is what stepping outside the will of God and marrying somebody that's not right for you will do. Again, would I say that we had some good times? Yes. There were times where things died down, but you have to understand My relationship wasn't built on one God, and it wasn't built on love. It was built on lying, secrecy, deception, dishonesty, and any house built on sand is going to crumble. And slowly over time, that's what it did. We never got a chance to truly fall in love with each other. We never got a chance to truly establish our love. It was constantly something always coming in to jeopardize, something always coming in to stifle the growth. And so I honestly said to him by the end of our 8 years, because when we separated at 8 years, I said, I've been married to you for all these years and I still don't even know who you are. And I had no established love for him. I cared for him as a person and I wanted what's best for him. But our love never got the chance to be nurtured and cultivated. And so you have two people who don't really know each other. And by the time they actually get to know a little decent bit about each other, they realize, I don't think I like this person. I don't like this person at all. And not only that, but the constant lying and deception, that was a no. That was a no. That wasn't going to fly. So with all this, you could think to yourself, man, I'm in a dysfunctional relationship. My relationship sounds, Jesus, just like your relationship. What I'm going to do? This person asks me, what is he going to do? And I want to say to you, is there hope? Absolutely. I wouldn't be a living testimony here today if I would not confess that there is hope. God in his mercy can work a miracle in our lives, not only in our lives, and bring restoration, but also if that marriage is his will, he can bring that marriage under his will. If, keyword, if we submit it to him. And I'm going to be sharing what happened in my marriage, my testimony, because y'all, my testimony was powerful. Powerful. After going through 8 years, powerful. So I want to go back to some of what he said. He said, I still desire to marry my God-given created bride to be, even though I'm going through this divorce. And y'all, there's nothing wrong with desiring love, y'all. He created marriage for two people to become one, to share in happiness and joy. Conflict, confusion, disorder, those things are not of God. Those things are of the enemy. But God, all those things of joy, love, peace, long-suffering, kindness, consideration, all those things that we desire in our marriage, those are of God. And so he desires those things for us. And I believe the victory can be found in any situation. And God desires for us to be blessed. However, this is the key thing that I want to say. Every situation has to be treated differently. Even though my situation may look very similar to your situation, the difference is in the people and their hearts, not the situation. That's the difference. And we have to be careful. He asked me, can you give me some advice on what to do? I've already forgiven her for what she did and didn't do towards me, but I just desire to separate and go my separate way. I believe the first step into any failed marriage, any issue, any mistake is to take accountability. Y'all, again, we are not victims of the situation. Regardless of whether we knew that person wasn't right for us, we didn't heed the warning signs, we didn't heed our intuition, we voluntarily chose to get into it. Even if it's through deception, we voluntarily chose to get into it. And because we are not victims, that's the only way we're going to get the strength and the courage to stand as victors. And a major part of that is going to have to be taking accountability. We have to take accountability for our part. I had to take accountability for the part that I did not give the relationship enough time. I did not heed my gut feeling. I did not adhere to at least the little bit of knowledge that I did have at the time. Because again, y'all, we have to take into account that a lot of these things we were not taught. Who sat us down and taught us about how to date? Who sat us down and taught us about what a good husband is, what a good wife is? Nobody. A lot of us, especially in the Black community. So I believe God knows that. And that's what some of us are here doing these YouTube channels and making these videos are about is because we want to teach you. Because honestly, the church has not done a great job on teaching us. It kind of gives us the bare minimum, the bare basics, but it's not equipping us with the knowledge that we need in order to be successful, or in order to have a successful relationship. And as the word says, where my people don't have knowledge, they will perish. So I do believe God has mercy. He has mercy on us. So know that God has mercy on you in your situation. But understand, you are not a victim in this. You are not a victim. Take accountability for the lies that you believe. Take accountability for the deception that you chose to walk in, the gut feelings that you ignored, maybe some counsel of some friends at the time or some family members that told you this is not a good decision, and you said no because I'm all in love and he's the one and this, that, and third. We have to take accountability for those things. That is the first one. The second part is forgiveness. He talked about forgiving her, right? So we need to forgive. Forgiveness is key because forgiveness heals the broken places in your heart, and it gives you the opportunity, and it opens the door of possibility to not only bring restoration in your own life for the future, but it also opens the possibility of bringing restoration in your marriage if that's what God wills. So forgiveness is absolutely key. So I commend him, the writer, for his forgiveness, for him taking part of that. And we need to take accountability for the situation that we're in. Always, 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 y'all, be open to forgiveness. Always be open to forgiveness, because that's how restoration is able to come in. Again, y'all, the answer is not a one size fits all. I'm going to share how God totally worked in my marriage, y'all, in that situation. First of all, in my marriage, he actually built a different level of faith in my marriage, because my whole marriage, I never worked a full-time job. Matter of fact, I haven't worked a full-time job since I got out the military. That was back in 2005. So like, let's say 2007, 2008. I'll go for sure 2008. I have not worked a full-time job in 2008. And yet I have a beautiful home. I'm taken care of. I'm a homemaker. Yes, I'm a homemaker. I stay home with my children. I'm financially provided for. I do make some money. I do hustle. I do have my own thing. So I do believe in having your own. But when you rest in God on your provision, and you walk in faith in that area and do what God has called you to do, he will bless you. He will bless you. And I'll make a video on that, just kind of walking in faith. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make a video about walking in faith. But let's get to my testimony on how God worked miraculously in my marriage. So I'm going to talk about the things that I did throughout my marriage that led up to the point where God was like, enough is enough. One, I gave my best to my marriage. Look, because the thing is, I respected and I honored, even though I knew like something wasn't right, even though I knew like, okay, this is some trouble, I gave my all. I said, you know what, if I end it, I have to say I gave my best. And I did things like counseling. I read books. I did self-growth, self-improvement. I was praying. I was seeking God's face. I was, whatever I could do to try to make my marriage work, I tried. And let me tell you, you can do only what you can do up to your part. The rest has to be supernatural. You can only do what you can do up to your part. The rest has to be supernatural. But I will say this, can you honestly say that you have been giving your best? Sometimes we haven't, and we're lying to ourselves. And if only we would actually give our best in our marriage, we would actually see a breakthrough in our marriage. So you kind of gotta ask yourself if you're giving your all, if you're giving your best. Are you doing what it takes to grow in self growth and learn what you need to learn? Because the thing is, at the end of the day, whether you go to whoever, the next person, the next marriage, you need to grow. You need to advance. You need to get to the place where you understand where you went wrong so that you can work on yourself. So if you never answer those questions, if you never take the time to see where you went wrong, the mistakes that you made, Because that's what you will be held accountable. Everybody will be held accountable to God for what they did, not the other person. You have to ask yourself, are you taking the time for self-growth? Are you giving it your best? Where do you need to take accountability in your marriage? Before you're ready to throw in the towel, before you're ready to give up on who could possibly be your spouse, you have to ask yourself these questions. And those are some of the things I did. The second thing I did, when it got down to the wire, I prayed a very specific prayer. That's one thing I love about God, is that he is a specific God. He is not some general, generic God. He is not a general, generic God. He is a God of detail, a God of just specifics. And I said in my heart, I pray. I've been fighting. I've been going back and forth. And at this point, he was hanging out all night. He wasn't coming home. And I remember I got tired of arguing. And I got tired of doing it in my own strength. And I said, Father, I said this prayer. I said, Father, you know our hearts, Father. You know that I want this to work. You know that I'm willing, even though I've been struggling, even sometimes for my love for him, I was struggling. I said, but Lord, I want to honor your word. If I made a vow to him and I made a vow to you, I want to honor that. But you know our hearts at the end of the day. And you know if we are truly being true to this marriage and whether we truly want this marriage or not. And Lord, I am willing to fight. Y'all, I'm a fighter. Sometimes it could be my downfall. But I'm a fighter. And I said, Lord, I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to stay in a marriage where I don't really am not in love with this person. But I said I was going to commit. And I'm willing to honor that and go through my whole marriage not being in love. Hopefully maybe it would get there. But at that time, it wasn't there. It never had been there. I said, but you know our hearts, and you know if we both are truly want this in it. Lord, if his heart is not in this, I need you to turn his heart away from me. Y'all, that was all I needed to say. That was all I needed to say. The Lord was like, say less. Y'all, at the end of the day, God knows our hearts. Sometimes we do have issues that we need to work out. Sometimes we do have things we need to be healed and delivered from. But God knows whether we truly want something. He knows whether we truly want him. He knows whether we truly want each other if we're in a relationship. In Corinthians 7, it does say that if any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she's willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. Now, this is, of course, Paul speaking on based on his wisdom and knowledge. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer and he's willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. So it is possible that you can have someone, they're not necessarily a believer, or maybe y'all both weren't believers and you became a believer at the time. I had only found out that my husband really didn't believe. He came to me as if he were one, because he knew that would kind of snare me in or would pull me in. And he really wasn't. He later on confessed that he only did it for me. So, but if he was willing to live, and when they mean by willing to live, willing to work with you, willing to do what it takes to at least make the marriage successful, because he loves you and he wants to do what's right by you, then it says don't divorce. Because there's hope there. There's room in his heart to receive the things of God. However, God, in his mercy, saw our hearts, and it was God who chose to release me from my marriage. When I tell you he turned that man's heart against me, when it says in the Bible he hardened Pharaoh's heart, I never would have thought that was true. When I tell you my husband, after that, When I prayed that, he didn't care what I said. He wasn't staying home. He wasn't going to listen to nothing I had to say at that point. And I remember one day, finally, he was sitting on the edge of the bed. And I asked him, I said, I'm willing to fight for this. You keep saying, I don't know. I need you to man up and just tell me, do you want this marriage, yes or no? And I remember him just looking at me. And he said, I don't want to be married to you no more. Y'all, I felt the shackles go. I said, hallelujah. In my heart, I was like, hallelujah. And I said, sir, I totally respect that. I said, now I'm going to need you to pack your stuff in and work on getting out of here. Let me know how much time you need, but you can't live here anymore. Because at the time, he was actually seeing someone also. You have to be very careful sometimes when they're in a relationship with someone, they think they done found it. They think they done found it. You not it no more. And this, that, and the third. He thought he had her. He thought he knew what it was. But y'all, he didn't know half the stuff. And now, lo and behold, they're not together no more, y'all. She was just an assignment to try to move him out the way. And guess what? She did her job. Y'all, I am blessed. I'm blessed because God saw it enough to give me a second chance. Because I do believe there is marriage in my future. Y'all, and there is a possibility there could be marriage in your future. If that is what God's will is. But the thing is, you need to get to the place where you are in a relationship with him in order to hear his voice and to recognize when he's speaking to you, and to recognize and to seek him for confirmation, to seek him to do the work. God made that man let me go. Now, I'm not saying that every situation is going to be like that, y'all. It could be you making the decision to do what you need to do. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? But what I do know is that you need to stay true to God's word. You need to listen to God's voice, and you need to do and obey in righteousness. You need to do what God tells you to do. Y'all, divorce, at the end of the day, divorce is not a way of escape from all the things and the shortcomings that we hate about our spouse. That's not what divorce is about. That's not what divorce is. Honestly, if truth be told, divorce, especially me speaking in my case, is a release from what is not coming in agreement with God's purpose in our lives. My ex-husband was not coming into purpose in agreement with me so that we could walk together in God's purpose for us. Because I believe God called him to that. But see, he has to choose that on his own. There was a time when he was serving in the church. There were times we were even doing videos together, y'all. I believe there's a great call on his life. But I can't make him walk in that call. And let me tell you something. What one man won't do, God will remove and put another who will. So understand, y'all, divorce and marriage. Let's just talk about marriage in general. Marriage is to fulfill God's purpose through your union on this earth. That is what marriage is about. I know the world uses marriage for whatever it wants to use it for, but marriage is about fulfilling God's purpose through your union. So whatever's not coming up in alignment with that, trust and believe God will remove it out the way. Trust and believe God will remove it. I want to encourage you all because marriage has the capacity to be a beautiful thing, a powerful thing. It is a powerful thing. And the enemy is doing everything he can to tear the very fabric of our society apart. He may be doing everything he can to tear your marriage apart. But you have to discern and know whether God put you two together or not. Because let me tell you this. If the Lord is telling you to stay and you go, you are being disobedient and you will reap the repercussions. However, if the Lord is telling you to go and you stay, you are being disobedient and you will reap the repercussions. I pray that you are blessed in your marriage. I pray that you recognize if God joined you two together. If you believe God joined you two together, why are you fighting against his will? There's going to be repercussions to pay. If God told you y'all were not supposed to be together and you still trying to make it work, why are you fighting against his will? There are going to be repercussions to pay. Y'all, we have to walk in obedience. We have to walk in righteousness. And when we do, we will see the hand of God over our lives. The word says to seek ye first God's face and his righteousness and his kingdom, and all the rest shall be added unto us. Y'all took too much time on here explaining, and I hope you guys got something out of it. I truly, if you lasted this long, kudos to you, because I can talk. You see why I had to have some notes, because now I was going to get all off subject. Kudos to you. But I hope this blessed you. I hope you were able to receive some clarity. I hope the one who wrote me was able to receive some clarity on this. And I would love to hear if you guys have a testimony of how either God restored your marriage by you listening to him and waiting upon him and leaning upon his understanding and not your understanding, and he was able to reconcile your marriage, or if God, like me, released you from a situation that you thought you were going to be trapped in for the rest of your life. I would love to know in the comment section. I would love to know. Please share your thoughts. Please share your comments. If you have any questions or anything, any topic you want me to speak on, please put it in the comment section, or you can email me. I am going to provide a link to my email in the description, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you all to my subscribers. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. We have to appreciate the people that support us. And for those who are new to my channel, welcome. I would love if you would subscribe. I plan to get content out whenever the Lord lays something on my heart, or if you want me to speak on a particular topic. I know people like to be on this, well, I'm going to have one every Thursday and Friday and Saturday, but sometimes the Lord does not give me anything to say. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I like to be led by the Spirit. But if you have something you would like me to talk about, please put it in the section below. Hope to hear from you guys soon. I hope this blessed the young man that reached out to me. I hope you were able to gain some clarity from this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.